Tonight, conquering hate with love, as Kuwait translates copies of the Quran in the Swedish language. And France rolls out the red carpet for Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. We cover stories about protest at Winnipeg's landfill, investigation of use of Uyghur labour in Canadian products, and a look back at MuslimFest performances. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. This is Muslim News Canada on Muslim Network TV. I'm Catherine Bullock. The Kuwaiti government will publish 100,000 copies of the Quran in the Swedish language. This is in response to the recent Quran burning incidents in Stockholm on Eid al-Adha. The news comes after the weekly meeting of the Council of Ministers with Kuwaiti Prime Minister Sheikh Ahmed Nawaf al-Ahmed al-Sabah. A Kuwaiti media source says this action is aimed at promoting tolerance and values of the Islamic religion. It says the translations will help foster coexistence among all individuals. The translated Qurans are expected to be completed soon in coordination with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They will be distributed at various locations in Sweden, including mosques, libraries, schools, and public institutions. The translation work is undertaken by Knut Bernström, a well-known Swedish translator who is a convert to Islam. Kuwait was among several Muslim countries that strongly condemned the recent Quran burning incident. The act was permitted by Swedish authorities, which deeply offended Muslims worldwide. In addition to the Quran publication, Kuwait, in cooperation with the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, is preparing a draft resolution. This resolution will be presented to the United Nations Human Rights Council to address religious hatred and the desecration of religious sanctities. Pakistan is observing today the 92nd anniversary of Kashmir Martyrs Day. The day commemorates the 22 Kashmiri lives lost in 1931. On this day, 92 years ago, Kashmiri protesters were shot dead in Srinagar, the capital of Indian-administered Kashmir, by soldiers of the then Hindu ruler Maharaja Hari Singh from the Dogra people. The day commemorates the memory of those lost during the revolt against Singh, who was a Hindu autocrat. Singh's troop shot dead every Kashmiri who stood up to make the call to prayer. The day was declared a national day soon after the independence of Pakistan and India in 1947. 4 years ago, the Indian government stopped observing the day as a national holiday. Special prayers were held in mosques today across Pakistan for the martyred Kashmiris. In a press briefing, Pakistan's Foreign Ministry spokesperson said the struggle ignited a freedom movement by the Kashmiris on that day that continues till now. She said over the last 70 years, just like the Dogra forces, the Indian occupation forces have killed hundreds of Kashmiris simply for demanding their rights. She said in the last 4 years, Indian forces have martyred more than 780 Kashmiris in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Two former chief ministers of Jammu and Kashmir said today police prevented them from offering homage to the martyrs. The ruling Hindu nationalist Bharatiya Janata Party scrapped the autonomy of the Jammu and Kashmir region 4 years ago. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has begun a 2-day visit to France. The visit is focused on defence ties between France and India. This is Modi's 4th visit to France since Macron came into power. Despite differences over the war in Ukraine and tensions over human rights in India, Western democracies are courting Modi. Many European and American businesses, including US tech giant Apple, are moving production to India from China. The move is dubbed by experts as an attempt to bring India as a counterweight to China in Asia. Modi stepped out of his plane around midday to full military honors. The Indian leader is reportedly set to purchase another 26 French-made Rafale fighter jets. Modi will also acquire 3 Scorpene-class submarines. Despite the deepening ties between the two countries, EU parliamentarians approved a motion that urged India to end violence in the country's Manipur state and protect minorities there. The motion criticized the nationalistic rhetoric of the local state government run by Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party. Modi has been facing allegations that he was complicit in religious violence during his tenure in 2002 as Chief Minister of the state of Gujarat. During the riots, around 1,000 Muslims were killed. Modi also faces criticism from advocacy groups for increased rights abuses against journalists and minorities, especially Muslims. The city of Winnipeg has filed for a court injunction to remove protesters blocking the entrance to the Brady Road landfill. The blockade was set up after the government decided not to fund a search for the remains of 2 murdered Indigenous women believed to be in the Prairie Green landfill near Winnipeg, Manitoba. The women were murdered in May last year. The city has expressed concerns about environmental safety and financial risks as the reason to remove protesters. The affidavit filed by the city says there was a previous blockade, but the protests ended in January. It says the previous blockade resulted in closure of the landfill and diversion of city waste. As of this Tuesday, around 10 protesters remained at the landfill. The application names the daughter and cousin of one of the missing women. The city says ongoing construction of an alternative route has cost $124,000 so far. The city aims to remove the encampment and blockade. The mayor of Winnipeg has emphasized the need for garbage collection. He has shown willingness to engage in dialogue with the affected families. For more on the use of forced Uyghur labor in Canadian products, stay tuned. Canada's ethics watchdog has announced it will investigate whether Nike Canada and a gold mining operation are benefiting from the use of forced Uyghur labor in China. Sherry Meyerhofer, the Canadian Ombudsperson for Responsible Enterprise, says the investigations were launched after complaints from 28 organizations were filed with her office. Canada prohibits the importation of goods produced in whole or part by forced or compulsory labor. An Australian think tank alleges that Nike Canada has supply chains with 6 Chinese companies whose products used forced Uyghur labor. The Australian Strategic Policy Institute also alleges in a separate charge that Dynasty Gold's mining operation in Xinjiang uses coerced Uyghur workers. Meyerhofer looked into both complaints and decided there were grounds to launch investigations. Meyerhofer calls the accusations serious. She says a final report will be published once the results are there. The parent company of Nike Canada has denied any part of its shoes were produced by Uyghur forced labor. Dynasty has also refuted the claims, saying it has no operational control over the mine in China. According to the UN, China committed serious human rights violations against Uyghurs and other Muslims. As many as 1.8 million Uyghurs and other Turkic Muslims are thought to be held in internment camps in China. Sweden's highest court has rejected Turkiye's extradition request for 2 unidentified men who are refugees in Sweden. The court says the allegations faced by the men is not a crime under Swedish law. The news comes after Turkiye lifted its objections to Sweden's bid to join NATO after a year of blocking it. Previously, Turkiye had blocked Sweden's accession to Europe because it said Sweden harbors what Turkiye calls terrorists. Turkiye alleges the unidentified men participated in the movement led by Fethullah Gulen, a Muslim cleric based in the United States, by downloading and using a mobile application used by the movement's members. Turkiye considers Gulen's network a terrorist organization and holds him responsible for the failed coup attempt in 2016. The Swedish Supreme Court says simply downloading and using a mobile application cannot be deemed as criminal activity under the Terrorist Crimes Act. The court also expressed concerns that the men might face persecution if extradited. The men have refugee status in Sweden. A recent poll shows that Asian Canadians continue to face mistreatment and harassment in Canada due to political tensions and the impact of COVID-19. The survey was conducted by the Angus Reid Institute and the Canadian Race Relations Foundation. The poll surveyed 884 Asian Canadians from various backgrounds. The data indicates ongoing abuse and poor treatment experienced by many Asian Canadians. The report cites the strained relationship between Canada and China, the detention of Canadian individuals, and trade disputes as contributing to the mistreatment of Chinese and East Asian Canadians. Compared to a previous poll in 2021, there has been an increase in mistreatment, particularly for Chinese Canadians. They reported instances of name-calling, insults, threats, intimidation, avoidance, and physical attacks. South Asian Canadians also reported a higher level of abuse and discrimination. The report shows Asian Canadians believe discrimination and racism have worsened in the past year, while the general population sees it as less of a problem. It also shows despite facing mistreatment, many Asian Canadians do not report their negative experiences to the police. What did the largest Muslim arts and culture festival in North America have to offer on its 20th anniversary? Here is a report by Saamiyah Syed.
MuslimFest is a 3-day festival in Mississauga, Ontario that brings in tens of thousands of people every year. The annual festival celebrates Muslim arts, culture, and entertainment and has done so for the last 20 years. Dozens of tents line the square to set up food stalls and merchandise. People came all over Mississauga and the GTA region, whether it was a glimpse at the main stage or participating in the amphitheater programs or even in one of their several artistic workshops.
I'm so excited to be here at the 20th MuslimFest here in Mississauga. And it really goes to show how much the Muslim community is a fabric of what Mississauga is, what Canada is, and I am so proud to be part of this. It is great to see all of the pluralist communities coming out from all corners of the world here in Mississauga to celebrate the beautiful religion, the beautiful culture that is Islam and Islamic tradition.
The festival marked the special 20th anniversary occasion by breaking a world record for the longest falafel wrap in the world, and by debuting the Najashi musical about a king who supported Muslim immigrants. The main stage came alive in the afternoon until the evening, with either local artists such as Ali Soulful and Yahya Hawa to international comedian Maz Jabrani and the highly anticipated Maher Zain, who put on an exclusive hour-and-a-half performance just for the MuslimFest audience.
Thank you for watching. Our news is produced by Sound Vision, which is a not-for-profit organization. We need your support for donations. Please scan the QR code on our broadcast or visit muslimnetwork.tv to donate now, so we can continue to amplify the voices of Muslims in Canada and abroad.